I'm going to be going over how I made $300 today, understanding market context, using order flow, and coming into the day with a non-biased and objective state of mind. So let's get right into it. So my plan called for today was to watch for the 4740 to 4744 last line of support, which ended up lining up with the lower balance of ES. And what I was watching for was these two main scenarios was if ES can get back under these levels, I would be looking for ways to play short, confirming a breakout, targeting the 2.8s, and then into the 10s. And on the flip side, if ES was able to reclaim back above the range, I'd be interested in fading the breakout for a scalp into the 5.7s, which I lined up with the untested overnight highs, and then into the 6.9s, which was yesterday's high. And for context, ES has been in this range since the middle of December, and every time we test the lower extremity of this trading range, buyers would step in and defend lower prices. You can see each time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on a 690-minute time frame. And on the flip side, sellers, whenever we come up to this upper extremity, that lines up with 4820s to call it 4840s, sellers would step in, and there's basically a lack of direction to one side of the market. And whenever you're in trading ranges, you want to be looking to buy the lows. So each time it comes into this lower bounce, you buy the low. And every time it comes up to the upper extremity, you want to be selling the highs, because that's how you properly trade those trading ranges, or confirm the breakout if you see signs of acceptance to that one side. And where I got 4744 from, it lined up with this structure from December 14 and the December 20 candle. And it also lined up with yesterday's low. And yesterday's low ended up being 4740, so which is why I was watching that as the last line of support. For added context as well, VIX pre-market was showing relative weakness. You can see here, this is yesterday's day and this is Tuesday. And this 14.8 level is really key because pre-market, we were still under these highs while the ES was, let's see, yeah, while the ES was trying to break under these lows. You can see here, this is Tuesday's low, yesterday's low. And ES was trying to attempt to break under while the VIX was still under this 14.8 level, which is a huge anomaly for the way I trade and was a big piece of the puzzle for me. One final piece of the puzzle that led me to believe that many were overly bearish today, especially with the attempt that was given at pre-market that I'm going to show later, was that it was a very quote-unquote obvious short breakdown setup where many see this structure of these lows, especially yesterday's low of day and this structural low of day. There's going to be many people that are trying to short a breakdown just because of that level, not understanding that we're in a higher time frame balance low where it's higher probability that a bounce will occur. Very interesting in the pre-market. This was the activity that was occurring pre-market. There was a bunch of selling, especially below 40s, which is the last line of support that I had drawn out. There was an attempt to bid below that from the sellers. You could see over 600 lots, 700 lots of selling, but they didn't get that continuation. And you could see here, market opens up, they attempted to sell again, and it just lacked continuation. And you can see here, first 5 minutes, we end up getting bought back up. Seeing a bunch of aggressive buying. And now the sellers that sold down here without knowing the context are underwater. And they eventually have to stop out. So with that context coming in, my idea was that I was just going to buy any dips that hold above the 39/40, and I ended up getting in on the 635 candle whenever I saw this buying activity at the 4 threes. You can see one sell attempt, two sell attempts into the 4 threes. I get in long at 45.75, and with the stop loss below 42, giving it a bit of room, targeting 5.7, which ended up being the untested overnight highs. And I actually ended up stopping out of this trade at first for a small 3.75 loss. So -1 R on the day. But I actually ended up re-entering with the same thesis on this 7 o'clock candle right here when price came back to retest that level. I'm going to show the visual on the tape because it was super key and very strange activity as well. So you can see here 4 threes keep holding 4 threes, and I end up stopping out my first trade right here under 4 twos, but that ended up being a stop run. And in hindsight, this is a small mistake I made in my trade. I should have re-entered right away after I saw price moving back up, but I ended up hesitating and not doing that. So I missed out on a earlier entry that I could have taken because I hesitated, and that just goes to show like hesitating in this game. There's no room for that because all you gotta do is prepare and execute, and that's it. And that's a mistake that I wrote down in my journal earlier today when I was reviewing it. And you can see here there's still activity at these 4 fours, and I'm gonna replay that real quick. Look, and slow it down because this is my second entry right here. Let's see, before the 7 a.m. candle. So this candle right here. So with this context, like I said, at these lows, and then stops ended up getting run, including mine, with the 4 threes holding. Look, 500 lots, 400 lots, bunch of negative delta coming in, and we still aren't getting continuation to the downside from the sellers. And look at this action. You have to have been watching the tape in real time to really understand this, but you can see a bunch of selling again into the 4 fours lined up with VWAP on bookmap. And then watch this. Sweep down again. More selling. And then look at that. It basically it looks like very strange buying activity. And that's what caught my eye into re-entering this trade. And as soon as I saw this action where the sellers attempted to break the lows again and they failed, and immediately price ended up moving back up. You see that volume coming in? I got back in long at 4.7 with the stop loss below this bar's low, targeting 5.7 again. And this trade ended up working out about the next 2 5-minute candles, and that second trade ended up paying off my loss from earlier plus more. and I ended up netting a 2.5 R on that trade versus a -1 R from the day, from the first entry. And I'm gonna show a book map visual of what happened just to make it educational and show the power of the tape. You can see here, bro, a bunch of selling, but it's not getting rewarded. And you could just tell that these shorts down here got squeezed as soon as we got above this structure, and this ended up working out cleanly into my target. For added context, the NASDAQ supported this trade, and it was acting as a relatively weak index, and it came into this demand imbalance and ended up finding support. And the rule of thumb is when you want to find an upside continuation, you want to see the relatively weaker name bounce at support. And that is exactly what happened. And that's what supported my ES trade. And you could see it run up quite a bit until end of day we end up selling back off into the lows and back below that range. But that ended up being low of day. Could have caught a nice 25 move out of that, but you're obviously never going to catch the bottom. You're never going to catch a top perfectly. And all you got to do is create a plan and execute it, and if you followed your plan, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Nothing else matters after that. It doesn't matter. So I wanted to go back here to just show the importance of risk management and how I was able to end green today despite going 1 for 2. And that all comes down to your risk reward. You can see here I net -1 R. I was only risking 187 on this trade to make 562. See, I was laying down 3.75 points. And on my next trade, same exact thesis, I ended up netting a 2.48 R. And I was risking 200 on the see. The main point of it is I'm still risking small on these trades compared to the targets, and that's the name of trading. Risk small and get bigger winners. Obviously, I could have gotten a bigger R on this had I taken that earlier entry, but it goes to show that shit happens. Trading isn't perfect, and it's really, again, like that point I made earlier. Plan and execute and repeat every single day. Follow your process. Go through those trial and error phases and continue to build that mental fortitude as a trader. So I'm gonna end that off on a good note. So peace.